Autism Housing Pathways, Building Roads to Home. Learning about sensory regulation. When we were kids, we learned about our five senses: hearing, seeing, touching, tasting, and smelling. We have two other senses called our proprioception sense and our vestibular sense. But don't worry about the names, you won't need to remember them. The two other senses help us feel where our body is even when our eyes are closed, keep our balance, and know which way is up. Our senses help us take in information. They take in information from the world around us. They take in information from our bodies. A lot of the time, we don't even think about it. Our senses send the information to the brain. The brain decides how to react. Is the information something interesting? Is it something important we need to learn? Is it something dangerous we need to run away from? Is it something we can safely ignore? What would happen if your brain didn't get the right information? What would happen if your brain didn't understand the information it received? You might react differently. You might pay lots of attention to water dripping and not to the person talking to you. You might not notice if you got hurt. You might be bothered by light and squint. You might use too much force and hurt people when you hug them, or break a handle when you pull on it, or slam a door when you're shutting it. You might be really bothered by tags on your clothes, or if your shoes were tied too tight. Strong smells might give you a headache. Loud sounds might really bother you. Many people with autism have problems getting the information they need from their senses, or their senses may not work efficiently. They may react in unexpected ways. In this video, you will learn about some of the problems people with autism have when they don't get the information they need from their senses. You will meet Terry, Alicia, and Jassy. You will learn about some of the ways to help people when they are not getting the information they need from their senses. Sensory regulation is the way your brain makes sense of the information it gets from your senses and decides how to react. Why do we call it sensory regulation? Because the information can be adjusted, organized, controlled. Imagine a thermostat. When the temperature in a room is too hot, you can turn the thermostat down. When the temperature in a room is too cold, you can turn the thermostat up. The thermostat regulates the temperature. Normally, your brain regulates the information you get from your senses. When people have brains that can't regulate the information they get from their senses, we say they have a problem with sensory regulation. There are different ways to have problems with sensory regulation. Sometimes a person might not be able to shut out the information they don't need. David can't focus on what his supervisor is saying because of a fly buzzing. David is overreactive to the sound of the fly.
I mean, you're asking about sensory stuff, but like if somebody comes up from behind and touches me lightly, and I have no idea that they're about to do it, it's like somebody takes a spike about that long and just wails the crap out of it into my head. And I turn around usually quite angry and negative and with a really nasty look on my face, like, why did you do that on purpose? And people are just like, hi, and totally blindsided by my anger. So it's isolating because after a while people learn to, they don't equate that, they just equate my behavior. And so they don't realize that they triggered it. And so what they do is they absent themselves from me.
Sometimes a person can't get information they do need. Lucia likes to sleep under heavy blankets even when the weather is warm. The blankets press hard. This deep pressure helps Lucia feel where her body is and to feel safe. Lucia is underreactive to the feeling of her body.
When I was younger, especially in the summer, water, I'd go underwater. And actually, other people in my family who were on the spectrum used to do the same thing. We actually started calling it sounding. But some of my happiest summer memories are at a local municipal pool, going from one end of the deep end to the other and back and forth underwater by myself. And it made me happy. At the end of the day, I'd be calm, and so that would be my equivalent of deep pressure.
Sometimes the same person might be overreactive to some information and underreactive to other information. Or they might overreact to some information today, but not tomorrow. Yesterday, Justin had lots of fun swimming. Today, he won't go in the water and asks to leave. Justin's reaction to the sights, sounds, and smells at the beach are different today.
I use that cup of stress kind of thing. Some days you wake up and the thread count in the sheets and the amount of sleep you got was great, so the cup's empty. And other days the cup's halfway full or almost all the way full, and on those days anything will set me off.
Imagine how you might feel if you spent a whole day being overreactive. You hear a buzzing sound coming from the fluorescent lights, and the lights hurt your eyes. The smell of the air freshener in the bathroom gives you a headache. Your new shirt itches. Your boss taps you on the shoulder, and you flinch. Now imagine trying to pay attention at work. Can you do your best work? How will you react if someone criticizes you for not listening? How will you react if someone bumps into you? You can see that too much information from your senses can upset you.
Well, it's painful, and it's also makes me angry. It's an invasion. You can look away from something that's disturbing you, but it's really hard to look away from a sound because it's 360. So. And especially when I was younger and didn't realize what was going on, it was incredibly anger-producing, but also like very puzzling. And when's it going to happen next? And why isn't anyone else reacting like I'm reacting? So that made it very tough. And then, of course, the people trying to calm you down. The best way to uncalm someone is to say, you need to calm down, when you don't have the tools. And so that would actually, if someone said that, that would actually spur a meltdown. There is a reason for me being set off, so to speak, on a sensory meltdown or approaching one. Because in the old days, they used to say it was 0 to 60, everything would be fine, and then everything would go to hell. And that's not the case. The people observing just aren't knowing that cleaning products are way too harsh, or there's actually the fluorescent lights are buzzing, and it's just driving me nuts. And but it's not driving anyone else nuts, And then somebody comes up from behind and touches me, and I, go through the roof.
Problems with sensory regulation can cause problems with emotional regulation. The opposite is true too. When someone is upset or anxious, small changes in their sensory environment can just be too much to handle.
Well, I guess going back to the visceral versus the cognitive, I would find that, for instance, I might be stressed, let's say, because maybe I am feeling overly sensitive, but maybe I'm not aware of that, so I start reading things in my environment thinking that those are the things that are actually upsetting me. So I'm actually getting upset about things or disturbed by things that really wouldn't disturb me if I already wasn't in a vulnerable state.
Now imagine spending a whole day being underreactive. You might pull the handle off the faucet. You might burn yourself in the shower and not notice. You might turn the sound all the way up on the TV. You might not pay attention to the siren on a police car. You might miss important directions or instructions. What could happen? Your landlord might be unhappy with you. A burn might get infected. Your neighbor might be unhappy. The police might be very upset. You might burn dinner. How are you feeling after these things happen? Probably confused or frustrated. Again, problems with sensory regulation can cause problems with emotional regulation. Here's another way to think about sensory regulation. Imagine driving to the beach. The window is open. There is music on the radio. You are talking to the person next to you. Children are playing in the back seat. Your senses are in balance. Now imagine you are driving in a snowstorm. The car starts to slip. You hold the steering wheel tighter. You sit up straight. You turn off the radio. You stop talking. Your senses are on high alert. You need all your attention for driving. If the kids in the back seat start to fight, you might yell at them. It is harder to stay calm in the snowstorm than on the beach day. People try different ways to handle their problems with sensory regulation. You might see someone cover their ears with their hands to block out noises, or pull a hood up over their head, squint to block out lights, hum to block out noises, flap their hands to get enough input through their eyes, spin to get input to their body.
I like to self-stim with language. Like I'll get a earworm in my head, either a rhythm, the way someone said something, a certain phrase from a book or a movie. I like to repeat it to myself or even out loud if I'm in private, and I actually get a great deal of pleasure out of that. It's sort of like almost like an internal massage.
Sometimes people try to handle sensory issues by controlling everything around them. Jose wants to control where things are, what lights are on, whether the window is open. He even tries to control where other people are and what they do with their bodies. When Jose can't control everything, he may have a meltdown.
I can become rigid. In other words, if I have things in which I think I'm comfortable this way, I want things to be this way, I could become my own dictator. And it's like I can't see beyond the way I think things should be, and it actually can stifle my creativity. So in other words, if I'm upset that I can't find a door jamb, right, I might not see that, well, the chair will work perfectly well. So that could interfere with lateral thinking and being able to think outside the box, become rigid.
As you can see, sometimes the way people handle sensory issues can cause more problems. What are some other ways for people to handle sensory issues? Some ways that won't cause more problems. Help people self-regulate. Make spaces more sensory friendly. Spend less time in spaces that aren't sensory friendly. Self-regulation means learning to give your senses the right amount of input. What are some ways to self-regulate? Bouncing on a mini trampoline. Bouncing on a therapy ball. Using a balance board. Lifting weights or doing heavy work. Riding a bike. Watching a spinning light-up toy. Chewing on something that gives deep pressure, like a special chew. Squeezing a stress ball or hand grip. Swinging in a hammock chair. Sitting under a weighted blanket. Getting into a body sock. Sitting in a beanbag chair. Listening to calming music. Doing yoga. Meditating. Wearing earplugs or headphones. Watching a calming video display. Wearing compression clothes. Wearing a baseball cap. Using an ostrich pillow. Terry is doing qigong to self-regulate.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Terry also uses the treadmill every day to self-regulate. He watches a favorite video while he is on the treadmill. People with sensory issues can take a sensory break to self-regulate. They can choose a self-regulating activity. Think about taking sensory breaks the way you take a coffee break. Sensory stress and emotional stress build up throughout the day. It's like filling up a cup. Eventually, it overflows. Sensory breaks are a way to pour a little water out of the cup. They help the person get through their day.
I use that cup of stress kind of thing. Some days you wake up and the thread count in the sheets and the amount of sleep you got was great, so the cup's empty. And other days the cup's halfway full or almost all the way full, and on those days anything will set me off. So, so that the concept of resilience and being able to pour some of that cup of stress out by gum chewing, listening to music with headphones. It's not just listening to music. I mean, listening to it on Bose headphones so that the fidelity, and I started out with the low-level ones, and now I have some of the best they make.
It helps for the person to have a sensory area or sensory room at home or at work to take sensory breaks. It also helps to have ways to take a sensory break anywhere. An example might be to listen to a meditation recording using headphones. Another way to help people is to make spaces sensory-friendly. A sensory-friendly space is one that doesn't give too much input to the senses. This house does not have any fluorescent light bulbs. In this office, the fluorescent light is covered with a special cloth to make it less annoying. This office also has an air filter to remove annoying smells. Air freshener is not used. It makes things worse. Only unscented cleaning products are used in this kitchen. Plain walls without a lot of decoration are calming.
So it's not just pollen count, it's detergents, soaps, potpourri. There's no, I don't know if you've noticed, but in this house there's no potpourri, there are no fragrances in the air. Everything is free and clear, and it's very specific free and clears that I've tried, because some think they are and they're not. Other things that I've learned is I have to buy sheets that are at least 800 thread count, and I have to have air filters in the rooms and to get the dust count down. And the more I control environmental factors that allow me to get a good night's sleep, the more resilient I am, and the emptier my cup of stress is in the morning.
You can try to find out what bothers a person's senses. One way is by asking them. Another is to watch them. A person who always turns out fluorescent lights is probably bothered by them. Some stores have sensory-friendly times when the lights are dimmed and no music is played. At sensory-friendly movies, the lights stay on, the sound is turned down. People get up and wander around. Sometimes people have to spend time in places that are not sensory-friendly. The person may need to bring something to help them self-regulate, like headphones or sunglasses.
Make sure I have my iPod, make sure it's charged, and I have the Bose sensory canceling headphones, so they have to be charged. To make sure they're charged, make sure I have the cables for them, make sure I have battery backup, make sure I have the transformers. And then if I'm going to someplace, like I went to a wedding this weekend, so you have to wear clothes that you wouldn't normally wear. So then you have to have backup clothes to get out of and get into. And then actually have moments where you're like, excuse me, I'm going to go up. I just need, like the bathroom's a great thing. You don't use the bathroom, but you leave to go to the bathroom, and then you just walk around a little bit. So, and I gifted that one to my kids too. Like if sometimes you actually do go to a bathroom and stay in there, but it's just because people won't follow you. So, and if they do, it's inappropriate, and come find mom.
It helps to limit the time spent in places that are not sensory friendly. Some people can only go out for short periods before they melt down. Plan ahead. At a restaurant, make a reservation ahead of time. Go to the restaurant at a time when it is less busy. Ask to be seated in a quiet corner. Order the food over the phone so it is ready when you get there. Or look at the menu online so you are ready to order when you get there. Have activities planned so the person knows what to expect. For example, when you go to the beach, plan on swimming, then eating lunch, then getting dressed, then leaving. It helps to read the person a story with pictures too. Show them what the place will look like and what activities you will do there. Always be willing to alter plans or be prepared to leave early, especially if something unexpected happens, like a store being crowded. Terry needs to know how long he will be someplace. It helps to use a visual timer. It also helps to give him a sticker every few minutes. He knows that when all the stickers are on the sticker chart, he can leave. A timer goes off. Terry gives himself a sticker and resets the timer. Some activities are just hard for some people with sensory regulation problems. Examples might be haircuts or trimming fingernails. It may help to use a reward or reinforcer for these activities. Sometimes people have used up all their energy to handle sensory stress. They need to retreat and spend quiet time. You need to respect that need. On Christmas, Terry had a lot of excitement. He spent quiet time in his room, using his swing and playing with his trains. After an hour, he was ready to come out again. In this video, you have learned a bit about sensory regulation. You have learned that some people's brains cannot automatically regulate the information they get from their senses. You have learned that when people's brains don't get the right information, they may overreact or underreact. This can cause problems in their daily lives. Helping people self-regulate can help them handle the information their senses give them. Making spaces sensory-friendly can help people get through their day. When people have to go someplace that is not sensory-friendly, it helps to limit the time they spend there. A reward can help to get through very stressful sensory activities like haircuts. Sometimes people need to retreat until they can handle more stress. With this information, you can help people with autism stay calm and get through their day. This video is dedicated to David Manuel Rivera Corretier.